aware. We have questions that if you have a question, you can fill it out with one of the members of Jesus First so that they can be gathered together and given to the moderator on tonight because we want to do everything decently and in order. So as we remember that this is a house of worship, we know that this is a safe place that we can come together even if we have different opinions, but we want to be respectful to the house of God and the order that is already here at this church. And so we know since this is a house of worship, we want to open up with a brief scripture and prayer. So tonight I want to come from Micah 6:8, which reads, He have showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. So if you would join me as we bow our heads for a brief word of prayer as we open up. Creator God, Heavenly Father, we come in your name on today. We come thanking you as you have led us here for more information and knowledge and a better understanding. We humbly ask you, Lord, to help us, to empower us, to lead us, and equip us to make reconciliation even here in the city of Garden City. Lord, we thank you that as Micah 6:8 calls us to listen, give us ears to hear on tonight. Give us a mind to understand what is shared. Help us to do justice from the hearts of mercy and compassion marked by the humility of Jesus Christ. In your name we pray, amen. So on tonight, we thank you, each of you for coming and joining and wanting to hear what is going to happen in Garden City. We also thank both candidates as well as the campaign managers for being participative in this gathering. So at this time, I want to introduce our guest moderator, Robert Gould, as he come up to present the candidates. Let's clap for him.
Good evening, Garden City. Okay, y'all can wake up a little bit. Good evening, Garden City. Okay, I thought I was in the beautiful Garden City. I think that, we would make a little bit of noise. Let's try one more time. Good evening, Garden City. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. We're in an incredible county, one of the best counties on earth, Chatham County. But, a little bird told me, even though maybe I live in Savannah, that Garden City was the hypest city of them all in Chatham County. So one more time, good evening, Garden City. That's what we'd like to hear. That's what we'd like to hear. Thank you so much for having me this evening. My name is Robert Gould, and I'm CEO of RG Media Affiliates, and I'm also an author, a motivational speaker, and a business person in this community. And so although I am just a little bit of ways, across the way here in Savannah, hop, skip, and a jump. I think all of what we do collectively as a community really moves us forward. So I'm honored to be here. And are these the questions? Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Honored to be here and excited to engage with you all in this most critical conversation. And tonight I want to just set the tone before we go to our candidates to say this is a conversation. This is an engagement. Your futures are on the line. Your families are on the line. We're at such a pivotal point in our community with advancement that we want to make sure we respect the conversation. So we're in church, so I'm going to use a little church etiquette. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, say respect the conversation. All right, turn to your other neighbor and say, neighbor. Okay, come on, I saw some of my Holy Ghost-filled folks. Neighbor, respect the conversation. And so we're excited about that this evening. And so before we get started, we're going to jump right into these questions. We have two candidates here who've shown themselves for sure true to the community, who have served at different levels and different capacities, but nonetheless deserve the right to be here, deserve the right to be heard, and deserve a fair chance to give us their explanations to some of these pressing questions. So without further ado, I would like to introduce, and at this time, I'm going to actually hold your applause, and then let's collectively give them applause all together. We also have here on stage with us Mayor Campbell, who's here with us this evening, and also Dr. or Mr.? Where are we going by tonight? Doctor, okay, and Dr. Gary Monroe. Let's give them a round of applause, please. All right. So we're going to jump right in for this evening, and just to give a few housekeeping rules for rules of engagement so everyone understands that this has definitely been a fair and equitable process. Again, I want to thank the faith leaders of Garden City and Dr. Mason for having me this evening. We very clearly wanted to make this very transparent and non-biased as possible. So each candidate has written a series of questions that they would like asked to them to articulate to you their platforms and their view and visions for the community. They've submitted those to me. I've taken those questions and I have organized them into a form of segments. So tonight we're going to have a few segments that will cover, not but not least, they will cover community, they will cover housing, economic development, and public safety. So we're going to have 4 segments that we'll go through, and we'll allow each candidate to articulate some questions from that. And to start us out on a good note, I think it is great and noteworthy to say no one else has seen those questions except for their camps and myself. They have not seen each other's questions, but there are a lot of similarities. So I think that is a great starting out point for us all to agree on that there are issues in this community that we all have at the forefront of who we are and where we're going. So with that said, each candidate will have, so we're all clear, so no one thinks anything is biased, so everybody understands, each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for opening and closer. They will also have 2 minutes to articulate the answers to you. I will go back and forth between each candidate, allowing the opposition of that question 1 minute to respond if there's something they want to add. And then in the event that we think there needs to be a 30-second rebuttal, we will give each candidate 30-second rebuttal. But it's by grace. Somebody say grace. Grace that we're going to issue those 30-second rebuttals. All right? So are we ready to get started tonight? Okay, if you're with me, are you ready to get started tonight? Okay, that's what we like to hear. Okay, I heard that. Yes, I felt that. So we have done a coin toss, and in that coin toss, we have started out with opening statements, and we're going to set the clock. Our timekeeper is here, Will, so if anybody has any disagreements, Will, raise your hand. Focus them all towards it. No, I'm joking. Will is in the front. He's going to be our timekeeper. Will, please raise the time card so everyone can see that. This way, please. So when you want to flip it around. Flip it up. Yep. Flip it. So when that time card comes up, it is the time for each segment, and so we will respect that, and I will come back. We're going to start with opening statements by coin toss. Opening statements will be Mayor Campbell. Mayor Bruce Campbell, we'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Campbell. I was born and raised here in Garden City. I left home at 18 years old. I joined the Navy, did 3 years, where I met my lovely wife, Thelma, of 49 years. We have 3 lovely daughters. We have 8 grandkids and 4 great-grands. We moved back in Garden City in 1991, where we bought a home and we joined the church, and I'm the pastor of that church now. I opened up my business in 1992, and I'm still the owner-operator of that business. I was the president of the community club, which is now known as the Homestead Association. I was appointed on the planning commission, where I stayed for 7 years and became the chairman of the planning commission. I ran for city council, where I won my seat in 2011. I went unopposed the second term. Third term I lost, ran again 2 years later, councilman at large, where I was elected mayor pro tem and later elected mayor, and I serve as mayor as we speak.
Thank you so much. Mayor Campbell, we will start the clock and hear from Dr. Monroe with your opening statement. Mic check. And we'll restart your time. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Gary Monroe, married to the lovely Mona Lisa Monroe. I could tell you that I have a degree in the public sector. I can tell you that I have a doctorate degree in philosophy of Christian leadership and business. I can tell you that I have a school in Bermuda that is in its 22nd year for boys. I can tell you that I'm the president of the Garden City Homestead Association. I can tell you that I've served on the Zoning and Planning Commission for 8, 10 years. 2 years I've chaired. And there's a lot of things that I can tell you about, but I want to tell you about my heart. My wife asked me the other day, what's the two most important days in your life? And I said, what? She said, one, the day you were born, and the second one is the day you find out the reason why you were born. One reason I was born was to lead this city to a better place. I'm not here because someone asked me. I'm not here just because I simply want to be. I'm here because it's a calling and a fulfilling and what God has called me to do to fulfill the need and the issues that are succumbing, that Garden City is succumbing to. I'm here to represent the citizens and city of Garden City to take us to a better place. Now, you've heard that if it's not broken, don't fix it. I'm saying to you, I'm not arguing whether it's broke or not, but it can be better. And I'm the one who can make it better.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We're going to dive right in with our first segment. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me hear you say community. So we're going to dive in right to our first segment, which is on community. The first question will go to Mayor Campbell. Mayor Campbell, can you please describe community means to you, what the word community means to you?
Community means to me family, friendship, businesses, homes. You know, that's what community means to me.
All right. Thank you so much. Could you answer the same question for me, please, Dr. Monroe? What does community mean to you?
Community on top of family, on top of friendship, on top of relationships, and talk about grocery stores and things of those nature. Community means we're talking about quality of life. Community is where we come home to rest and restore and recuperate to go back into the world. So we need a community as for citizens of Garden City where we can call home, a place that we can come to, a place that we can love one another, a place that we can grow with one another, a place that we can share our values, a place where our kids are safe in the streets and playing, a place where we have recreation. It is a place where life happens. This is a garden. I want to see life happening in our communities.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. Appreciate that. The next question will go back still in our community segment to Mayor Campbell. And Mayor Campbell, you do have 2 minutes to answer this question. As mayor, what are your plans? It's no worries. Just ringing a little alarm there. No worries. As mayor, and we will ask, let's take this moment too, if you can, and make sure all cell phones are on silent or vibrate. We'd appreciate that. So we're going to reset the clock for 2 minutes. Of course, Mayor, this is your question. As mayor, what are your plans or what have been your plans for recreational advancement for Garden City youth and families? Do you see that there's a need for an extensive planned out measure or direct expansion for recreational capacities?
Yes, I do. And we had just invested almost $17 million in a recreation complex, you know, to fit everybody's needs. That's from the seniors to all our children. We have everything for summer care, the whole 9 yards. And so recreation is very dear to our hearts here in Garden City. And we spent, like I said, $17 million on a complex that's really, the groundbreaking has already been, and we should be starting on that by the first of the year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dr. Monroe, I asked you the same question. I'll repeat that just for your knowledge. As mayor, what are your plans for recreation advancement for Garden City, youth and family? And do you see a need for a dedicated plan to expand recreational capacities?
Absolutely. And with regard to the groundbreaking of the Recreation Center, we'll be waiting in bated breath, and we're going to hold the mayor or the council to that word with regard to something transpiring on the first of this year. But recreation is important, going back to community. Recreation is important to economic development. This is how you bring young families into your city, into your community, with a viable recreation department, a recreation department that allows for young people to come in, young people to grow in. Recreation has always been a tremendous component of my life. It teaches you basic fundamental skills of life to apply. And so we need to expand our recreation department. I'm glad to see that we are moving in a place, in a direction where we have a new facility that is being constructed and that we could begin to market to young
Thank you,
families
Dr. Monroe.
to bring them into our cities.
Thank you. Appreciate that. In that same breath and same thought, we'll go back to Mayor Campbell. You will have 2 minutes to answer this question. Provide your top 3 community accomplishments as the current mayor.
As the current mayor. Well, the recreation was one of them, and as current mayor, the recreation, and we just received notice about Rosenau Hill becoming is a historical a place of living, and the 3 was mayor, and I think that's about it.
Okay, Dr. Monroe will allow a 1-minute response to that as well. Can you provide 3 community examples or accomplishments that you've had in the community?
Well, I'm not the mayor now, so I don't have the resources available at my disposal to be able to engage in the capacity that he has. But even in my limited capacity, I've served previously on the Garden City Recreation Commission, where it was a voluntary commission where we helped coordinated, organized, facilitated recreation programs, recreation activities. I personally had a after-school program at the recreation facility, working along with the director, Mr. Cliff Ducey. I did that for about 10 years prior to me moving to Bermuda. And even when I moved back, the young kids remembered me opening the recreation facility after hours. And so I would come after hours for the kids and open the recreation facility so the older guys could play basketball. I'm that person that's in the community.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe.
That's
Appreciate
giving back.
it. Thank you. I will allow for a 30-second rebuttal in this space. We're moving a little ahead of time, but let's not look at it as a rebuttal, but if there are any additional comments that you would like to make in this space, I will allow both candidates to do that before we move on to the next segment. So is there anything else about community that you would like for the individuals to know? We'll go back in the order of questions that were just answered. So Mayor Campbell, is there any more community-centered things that you would like for the community to know?
No, let the doctor have the floor.
Okay, all right. We'll allow 30 seconds on the clock. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, we know that no chain is stronger than the weakest link. And that's how I approach community. I approach community that we have to strengthen each neighborhood. We have to strengthen each community that will make Garden City a stronger city. So that's my approach to community. And that is being able to go into each district, each community and neighborhood in that district and help and allow that community and neighborhood to be a viable community and neighborhood. And that's how we bring all
Thank
of
you,
Garden
Dr.
City
Monroe.
together.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Let's give our candidates a round of applause for the community segment. We'll now transition to our housing segment. Say housing. And also, we also have the leader of this house, so we just take the time to acknowledge you, Dr. Mason. Thank you for having us here in this space. Let's give him a round of applause. So we're going to move on to housing, and this is so critical. Of course, there are hot buzzwords now in our county, in our community at large, right? Words like Hyundai and the expansion of the Meta Plan and individuals that will be coming in to really inhabit with current citizens. And so we want to understand each of your perspectives in terms of housing and the city's role in advancing that. So with housing demands on the rise, and we'll start this segment with Dr. Monroe, with housing demands on the rise, if selected Garden City's next mayor, what will be your plan to address the current housing deficits that we have here?
Well, yes, my wife, who is now the current president of the Garden City Homestead Association, I mean, the simplest of things that we need to do here is utilize the resources that we have made available to us. And unfortunately, our city does not utilize the one resource that we have established as a city, the Garden City Housing Team, which is a which is Garden City certified GITCH agency in Garden City, was established to address housing in Garden City. And so we have a current mayor, city manager, and administration that does not even utilize that entity that is used to address housing in Garden City. That's the first thing. I'm going to utilize every resource, every entity, every agency that is made available to us to be able to address the housing needs in Garden City. It's as simple as that, on top of other things that we can do. One, when we have opportunities to receive $6 million from Georgia Ports Authority, I'm going to present a plan to Georgia Ports Authority, unlike the current mayor who sat down with Georgia Ports Authority and they told Georgia Ports Authority, basically, we have no need for the $6 million. So we didn't get any of that $6 million. There was a meeting established and they asked, where is the Garden City Housing Team? They said Garden City Housing Team is not part of Garden City. Therefore, we didn't get any of that money. So utilizing the resources that we have that could make a difference in the city of Garden City is the first thing that I would do.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. Again, in fairness and transparency, I am going to give you a minute to respond. I'm also going to use a point of privilege in this, since your name was mentioned several times, to allow you to address. So your response time will be 1 minute and 30 seconds. And I will give grace to everyone here. I will give grace to everyone. Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, Dr. Monroe really is off base talking about we talked to the Georgia Port Authority about the money. Now, Savannah received $750,000. That's how the money going to be issued over a year. But the money is for 3 municipalities. That's Port Wentworth, Garden City, and Savannah. But now they said they don't know how they're going to distribute the rest. But I guess the doctor, he know more than the people at Georgia Port Authority. But for as housing, that's far as I want to say about that. For as housing, we are on a roll with housing right now. We got over 700 units right now is in design. That's on Highway 80. We got multifamily apartments coming up on Highway on Dean Forest Road. We got some, and on the Constantine property we have townhomes coming. So over 700. And the city manager is constantly, giving tax break. I mean, it's not tax breaks, but giving permit breaks and everything to encourage people to come in and build multifamily homes and to build affordable homes and things like this. But the way the market is today, how prices is going up on houses, it's kind of hard to bring in the workforce homes to be built. But we are on a roll when it comes down to that.
Okay, and right at time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want you would like to add something to that? Would you like I'll give you a moment of grace. Yes, sir. No problem.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Let's put 30 seconds on the clock to be fair. Go ahead, sir.
Yes. So it's not that there's a housing market problem. Locally, the market dictates that we need housing. When you have a plant like the Hyundai plant coming to this region and area that's going to bring over 14,000 jobs, the market dictates we need housing. There is 1,500 acres of undeveloped land from the farmers market to Baysmore Park, an additional 500 acres of land, undeveloped land that's behind Garden City City Hall, that these places are available for affordable housing, townships, mixed use, and suburban development.
Thank you so much. All right, appreciate that. In this next segment, we're going to is economic development. But before we go there, I think I'll take a little Van or white privilege. I'll take a little privilege here to figure out a question from the community. All right, and forgive some of your handwriting, not my reading skills here, family. Okay, here we go. So This question says, okay. Okay, we're going to save that question, actually. I promise I will come back, but someone wrote a dossier, so I'm going to go there. Actually, it has to deal with economic development, so we will go there, but they have specific questions for each person, and I don't want to go there quite yet. Okay, so here's the question that we will take from the community first. First community segment question is, how have the immigrant community of Garden City been considered by elected officials when making decisions regarding the city? Again, I'll read that one more time. How have the immigrant community of Garden City been considered by elected officials when making a decision regarding the city? And Mayor, we'll start with you, sir.
The immigrant community,
Yes.
has they been considered?
How have they, that's, I'm just reading it verbatim, so I'm not adding or taking away. It's, how has the immigrant community been considered in making decisions by officials?
Well, we treat all citizens the same, and they got the right, just as much the right to come up to City Hall and request what they want, and the city take care of them like they take care of anyone else. That's the best I can answer that question.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts or anything you want to add to that, Dr. Monroe?
Well, again, I'm not a city official, but we do get a lot of complaints from those segments of the community, Nassau Woods, Savannah Pines, and the Chathamville mobile home area. And the Hispanic community and immigrants feel that they are an unwanted part of the city and feel that they are a part of the city that is overlooked with regard to just the basic things within the city. And so while we provide an opportunity for everybody to have free course in the city, we have to engage every segment of our community. I'm looking to do engage every segment of the community, engage every community, every segment, every culture, every aspect of our community. This is how we create that utopia of a city, by involving and encouraging people, all races, all colors, all creeds, all nationalities. If they live in Garden City, they're a citizen in Garden City.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe.
We want to provide them the best
Appreciate
opportunities.
that. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to our next segment. All right, are you getting some good information? Let me hear you talk back to me a little bit. Amen. Okay, that's good. All right, we're going to economic development. Say economic development. Okay, so we will actually start this segment hearing from Dr. Monroe with the expansion of industries like we've just spoken of. Of course, we've mentioned Hyundai. I think we limit ourselves, though, when we just talk about Hyundai because real estate is on the high. We have industrial plants that are on the high, and Garden City is in an industrial space. So with all the expansions, if a selected mayor, what is your plan to attract the right types of industries that will advance sustainability of the community, but also be fair to the growth of where we're headed?
Well, you have to understand the tax digest in and of itself, okay? Industry is here for the most part. We don't have to attract industry. Industry wants to come to Garden City. However, industry is part of the problem in the city of Garden City. So we have to have the right type of economic development, and that the development that we need in Garden City is residential development, retail development, restaurant development, that type of development that is consistent with providing the quality of life for the community and the citizens that are here. So that's, again, we have 1,500 acres of undeveloped land on one side, 500 acres on the other side. We have to capitalize on those undeveloped areas and grow the residential aspect of our tax digest. Our tax digest is growing, but it's growing industrially. And that has caused a negative, adverse impact on the quality of life in the city of Garden City.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. Mr. Mayor, I will allow you to respond to that. Again, industries.
Yes, sir. We gotten where we don't zone any more property for industrial, but Mr. Monroe sits on the planning and zoning commission, so a lot of these things come right through him. But all this property that he's talking about is private-owned property, and private-owned property, people can do what they want to do with their private-owned property. So for his economic economic development, right? We have we have different people want to come in here, like he says, but we have over 100,000 people commute through Garden City every day. But after 6 o'clock, they're gone. So we don't really have the residents. That's why it is valuable that we would bring in residents to support restaurants and grocery stores as a whole. But for right now, we just don't have that. But it's
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. I will allow you 30 seconds to respond.
And
30 seconds.
Mr. Campbell is correct. I do sit on the zoning and planning. And at the beginning of the year, we had an item that comes before our agenda, and I fought tooth and nail for that to be a residential development or some development that will be consistent to the quality of life in Garden City. Mr. Mayor, the city manager, the former mayor, and remaining council came in, changed the rules of engagement prior to the meeting, and they stood and fought against residential development and what the community of Rosenau here wanted. So it's a contradiction when they say that they are for residential development
Dr. Monroe.
when they are fighting against
That
it.
is time, but I will allow for you to respond, Mr. Mayor, and the clock starts now.
right now, well, what Mr. Monroe then wanted us to do, he wanted us to take some property that was zoned for 51 years as a not commercial, it was industrial. He wanted us to rezone this property, take those people property away from him. This is what he's talking about. That's why we went against it. We're not going to take nobody property away from him and rezone it just because we can do that.
That is time, Mr. Mayor. I will allow this segment to go a little longer. Go ahead, Dr. Monroe.
Well, we were not talking about taking the people's land. I have two commissioners here tonight. While the property was zoned for 51 years, industrial, under the industrial zoning, there are over 51 applications that can be applied to what type of development that can take place in an industrial development. So there are residential developments that can take place in an industrial zone. We were just fighting for that particular development not to take place in that zone.
Okay, Dr. Monroe. Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
We'll stay here just for a moment because
Right.
this is important.
But yes, sir. But if you own that property, you can tell me what could be put in that property. But if that's not what I want, then I'm not going to rezone my property for what you want if I want something else. And that's what the people had the right to do. I'm for what's right. Mr. Monroe step on them folks for what's wrong regardless, just for a position. I'm not going to do that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to keep us moving
Point
forward.
of privilege, sir.
I'm okay. Yes, sir. I'll give you this grace.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is it.
I was in communication with the people there. The Brown family, who was one of the last landowners there, was calling and saying that they want that their property to be developed for the best purpose that's going to serve the Rosenau Hill community. And then the community spoke up. It wasn't about changing the people's zoning or preventing them from selling the property. It was utilizing your authority as a city to create the best quality of life and to create a situation where it did not create adverse
That is time,
effect
Dr. Monroe.
on the
That
community.
is time. That is time,
Absolutely.
sir. I've been very respectful to you guys to extend this section. But Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, let's move to another important question that's been asked here. There has been some question. You mentioned grocery stores, of course, earlier in your answer, and talking about grocery stores and possible retail restaurants that could possibly come here. One thing that is here that has been here in our community for a while is the farmers market. So what is your plan or the city's plan, or where do you think the plan needs to go in the future for the farmers market?
Well, the city don't have no plans because the state still own the farmers market until they make a decision. They said they was talking one time about bringing it into Garden City, allowing Garden City to have it. But for right now, Garden City don't have no say-so on that. The state does.
Okay, Dr. Monroe, we'll
Yeah.
allow for you to respond.
Representative Gilliard is here this evening, and he stated in another meeting that the plan is to eventually turn the farmers market over to the city of Garden City. Now, he stated he doesn't have a plan, the city doesn't have a plan. I want to utilize the farmers market to create a downtown destination. I was in communication with one of Leopold's representatives. They're looking for a place to rebuild their creamery. I said, wouldn't it be a grand idea? Bring your creamery to the farmers market, create a chocolate factory of sort that will give us a tourism destination for when people come in Savannah, they can come and tour a landmark like Leopold's Ice Cream. And from having Leopold's Creamery at the farmers market, we could then begin to bring in other retail, other restaurants, other activities at the farmers market to create a downtown destination. With that being said, that's why we do not need to allow a 600,000 square foot industrial development to take place behind the
That is
farmers
time,
market.
Dr. Monroe. We're going to go to our next question here. So we're all clear, ice cream's on you after the debate, right? Or no? You're buying us all ice cream after the debate, right?
I can see if I can get his all something.
Okay, all right, good deal, good deal. All right, are you still with us? Let me hear you say, oh yeah. Okay, that's good, that's good. We're having great conversation. That's what this is about. We're going to go back to the community for a community question. We started with, last community question, I believe we started with you, Mr. Mayor. So we will start with Dr. Monroe on this. It says 17%, both of you will answer this question. 17% of the population of Garden City is Hispanic. How has this current administration addressed language equity access for schools, elections, and notices? And we'll start with you. If again, you're not an elected official, but
Yeah.
if you were elected, how would you address it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't say how we've addressed that thus far, but as alluded, what we have to do is that's where you bring other components of the community together, market forces, education. So we have to get into the school system. Now that we have all of our first through 12 in one location, we could be involved as a city. We have to get not only involved industrial, not only involved residential, we have to get involved education. We have to get in the schools. I started a mentor program, Miss Bowler, who's not with us any longer. We had a mentor program at Mercer Middle School where we were actively involved with the children in the schools, in the community. And so from there, that's how you get into the homes, to be able to assist and help the Hispanic community, the black community, the white community, or Asian community, or however you want to diversify the community. But this is how you get into the community, by bringing the market forces together. And the city, being that you are the authority of the city, I don't believe not only do you have the responsibility, it is your duty to bring all components of your city to the table. And that's how I would do it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Monroe. Mayor Campbell, can you address maybe what is in the future of official? How are you addressing the needs of the Hispanic community?
Well, when we send out literature, like for anything else, we send it, we got it to Spanish, and I think they have it on our website. But no one can sit up here and tell you that they're going to go up into the homes and they're going to the residents and do these things. They can say things very easily off the mouth, but actually do them. And the only thing you can do is send the literature out in Spanish, language that they understand, and they can come forward. But like I say, everybody's treated the same at City Hall and anywhere else.
Okay. All right. I'm going to keep moving on. Dr. Monroe. We will have some other opportunities here to speak. I want to stick in the vein of community. Again, I've just drawn another random question from our great community bucket here. And the question is actually, Mayor Campbell, it is for you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Campbell, what changes would you make, if any, in your approach to your role as mayor if elected? So what changes would you make? If you're elected for a next term, what would you do different?
What would I do different? Well, if I'm elected for the next term, I'm going to continue on the path that we're going. And I'm saying, like I said, we got consultants out, like I say, trying to bring more commercial and residents into the area. We got housing going up. We got the gym started. So we're going to continue to work on what we got. And until that develops, that's what we can continue to do. And when time for new changes, we'll make the changes as the changes come. But right now, I think we's on a roll.
Okay, awesome. Dr. Monroe, if elected mayor, what would you do differently? We'll do, let's try to, just for time's sake, so we can be fair, can you please just put 30 seconds on the clock, because I want to keep us moving forward.
Me just being elected is different. Just me being elected will be something different for the city. And I'm not saying that to be sarcastic or anything, but I think the mayor has sealed his fate when he said, I won't do anything different. And the reality of it is, we know the old saying that you know what you got, but you don't know what you're getting. But the reality of it is, if you know what you got and you keep it, you know what you're going to keep getting. And you've gotten nothing. And so he stated, the question is, what would he change? He's already changed something.
That is time, Dr. Monroe.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. So sticking also in our economic development segment, the last question in this segment, and we'll go back to you, Mayor Campbell,
Yes, sir.
is how important is financial responsibility as the mayor of Garden City?
Financial responsibility is very important to me, for myself, for my household, for my family. If I can't run my own household, or if I can't run my own financial responsibilities, then how could I run the financial responsibilities of a city? How could I help run the city? So I'm very deep when it comes down to financial responsibilities. And if you allowed so much to do so much with, you should do what you allotted that to do with. That's what you should do.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll allow for you to respond, Dr. Monroe. How important is financial responsibility as the mayor of Garden City?
Well, again, Mr. Mayor has revealed his hand to you that he's running the city like he's running his household. This is the business. The degree that I have in the public sector, they teach and taught you about policy, fiscal responsibility, and things of that nature. You cannot run a city like you run your house. That's why we have 10-minute council meetings. I'm on the zoning and planning, and we may have one or two items on our agenda, and those two items, we vet those items. And we may have a meeting of 2 hours for 2 items on our agenda because we thoroughly vet those items. We have a team of professionals on the zoning and planning, and we engage it from a business professional perspective. We do not approach the business of the city like we are running our house. Even when my wife and I are going over finances, it takes us 2 hours to engage and have our finances in place.
Mr. Mayor, I will allow you. That's fine. Okay, I'm giving you guys a little grace too. I'll let you have a little grace too. All right. Mr. Mayor, I will allow you 30 seconds is on the clock for rebuttal.
But he said he would. Your household is not a business. You got check and balances. You pay bills. It is a business. If you mess up in any area, you're doomed. So your household is a business. Now, I don't know about his household, but my household is a business. And it's ran like a business. And you run the city just like anything else. It's just a bigger business than your household.
So the question is fiscal responsibility. My household is not governed by federal, state, or local fiscal responsibilities. There are rules and regulations that I have to govern the city business by. There are certain things I have the liberty of doing in my house. If I want to move resources out of one account to another account, I can. If I want to write a check, I can. My wife can. Unlike the current mayor and administration, the city manager wrote himself a $21,000 check, and from my understanding, the former mayor just signed off on it.
Okay, so
The
that
mayor
is-
does not
that-
have
that is time,
executive
Dr.
authority
Monroe.
to do that.
Thank you, sir. That is time. I want to make sure, though, clear, just for fairness, the question was how important is financial responsibility?
Right.
So fiscal responsibility was not in the question. Just in fairness, fiscal responsibility was not in the question, but for interpretation for each
Financial.
candidate.
Financial.
Right. Financial responsibility was it. The words are similar, but I just want to be fair to both sides.
Well, fiscal
No,
encompasses
of course,
financial and all
of
that.
course. But just to be fair for our audience, the question is self-interpretation of what financial responsibility means to you. So, okay, the next question will go to Dr. Monroe, still under economic development. What do you see your role as mayor in being an advocate to the greater area and county for the city of Garden City?
And that's it. I want to be a face. I want to be a voice. I want to be a leader as a mayor and not just someone ceremonial that shows up, that has no responsibility, doesn't have to come to City Hall. All I have to do is come there on a Monday night and get my agenda package from the city manager and then make a decision, yay or nay. I study policy. I study finances. They asked the question, the council members, where does Reverend Monroe gets all of his information? Because I study. I've read the city charter from front to back. I've read the city ordinance from front to back. Every budget that comes out, I study it from front to back. So that's where it began, and that's where I get my knowledge. And I want to put it on a grander scale and a broader scale to be able to work with the county, work with Savannah, Port Wentworth, Georgia Ports. I have that capacity to be able to work with other agencies and entities so that we could be a stronger city and that we could be at the table and in the conversation of what's going on in the coastal empire.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. Same question to you, Mayor Campbell.
We're at the table, but you got to realize we got a city manager ran city. City manager run the city by the aid of mayor and council, by leadership of mayor and council. But I don't have to be in City Hall. It's a part-time job. I don't have to be in City Hall every day, but I'm there on the important parts when I need it, when I need to be there to sign things, and when I need to be in on certain meetings. But the city is ran by the city manager with guidance of mayor and council.
Okay.
From my understanding, Mr. Moderator, that the city manager serves at the discretion of mayor and council.
Yep.
That's how that operates, and
Right.
that's how that works.
Yep.
So how can a city manager administer and manage a city without leadership and direction from a mayor? And that's what I bring to the table. I'm going to get a new city manager because I'm not going to have a city manager, first of all, calling other council members clowns, calling citizens clowns, and addressing citizens in an ill-mannered way. So we will get a city manager, not a RoboCop. We will get a city manager that is credentialed, that has Port City experience, and that has economic development and growth in their experience and in their portfolio. And that's how we're going to grow economically.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Monroe. Appreciate that. Mr. Mayor, I will give you literally 30 seconds if you want to add anything to that because there were some things brought out.
No, I just want to say, Mr. Monroe going to do a lot as mayor when he was the president of the community center, and he didn't do a thing. For 12 years, with how he loved the kids, how he do this for the kids, but hasn't done nothing. Ask him what he's ever done for that community where he was the president for 12 years and still the president.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'm actually not going to ask him that here in this moment, but I want to keep moving. I will ask you to do that as citizens and people who ultimately are making the decision at the polls. You all ask yourselves those important questions that need to be asked. Moving on, we're going to go back to the community. See, I'm representing y'all's voice up here, okay? Y'all didn't give me any love for that. I'm representing y'all up here. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, back to the community bucket here. Why, oh, Lord, okay. Okay. All right, here we go. Why, well, I have to be able to read it to ask it, ma'am. Why did, I promise, I got you covered. I got you covered up here. Why did you vote for the project behind Rosing Hill? Rosen Not Hill, okay. Knowing how it impacted the residents, why did you vote? I'm assuming this is for you, Mayor Campbell. Why did you vote for
Yes,
it?
that's for me.
Okay, go ahead.
Like I stated earlier, it was those people's property. Some of the residents that stayed back there, they sold their property. Now, the people who owned the biggest amount of the property didn't stay back there, but the other people, they sold their property. So the property was zoned, like I say, for 51 years for for industrial use. And these people wanted to put a warehouse back there, and we didn't have the right to rezone these people property because some people wanted it rezoned. We just didn't have it. That's why I did it. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And then you'd have been setting a precedent for rezoning property. So now if we would have did that to those people property, how about when they came at our property and wanted to rezone it then? What kind of say-so would you have about that? See? Because it was somebody else's own, you'll do it, but if it was yours, you wouldn't have felt the same way. I'm in here to do the right thing. And that was the right thing to do because that was those people's property.
Okay. I want to move on to another question. I'm gonna. Do you have a? If you have a 30 seconds, okay. Come on, Dr. Monroe. No problem.
The city has a right and a responsibility. What I've learned on the zoning and planning is one of the protocols that we follow is when a petition comes before us for a request for land use, for development, one of the things that has to be checked off is it cannot cause adverse effect on the community that already exists. So it was not about changing the zoning of that community. It was about protecting the community that already exists. And that's what the policy states.
Okay. All right. Speaking of policy, this is another question. Now, this is our dossier question. I'm answering it here publicly in front of everyone, which allows both the incumbent and the candidate to answer here. The charter prohibits many services and is out of date. Residents and other stakeholders have asked for the Garden City Charter to be updated. To the incumbent, the question is, what has been your position or vote been on changing the charter? And I want to answer, put both pieces out here. And then to candidate Monroe, what is your perspective on changing and updating the charter? So both candidates. We'll start with you, Mayor.
Okay. Well, a few things needed to be changed in the charter, but the way the charter looked, Port Wentworth, Pooler, all the rest of them got the same charter, basically the same thing. And like I say, I don't see nothing wrong with the charter. Like I said, a few areas could be changed. But if that's the case, this is outdated. The Constitution is outdated, but I don't see anyone wanting to change it.
Okay.
While there are times to change your charter, update your charter, it is stated in the Declaration of Independence that our charter or our Constitution should not be changed, modified, or altered for light or transient things. But how many of you know that the mayor, they just passed a resolution to change the charter where you will no longer vote for the mayor pro tem, but the mayor will appoint their mayor pro tem. Even if I'm the mayor, I don't want that. I do not want to take your vote out of your hand. So the mayor has the responsibility now. They are changing, they have submitted legislation to the state to change the charter that the mayor of Garden City now will appoint the mayor pro tem. And even if that mayor pro tem cannot fulfill their term, the mayor can then replace them without the consideration or input of the rest of the council. That's not responsibility or authority, that's dictatorship.
Okay, so Dr. Monroe, that is time. Mr. Mayor, we will allow for you to rebuttal.
Okay. So if you become mayor, you're gonna change that. You don't want that authority.
I don't want that authority because it's the right of the people to elect who they want representing them. See, that's what education does for you. I studied policy, I studied procedure, I studied democracy. And in a democracy, that's the greatest thing that people have, and that is the right to vote for their representatives. I would not want that.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Mayor, I will allow for you to respond.
But the decision couldn't have been made by the mayor alone. Did you know where the if they see you talking about what you'll do, Mr. Monroe, but you ain't but one vote. But if the majority vote yes and the mayor votes no, they still gonna get what they want.
So the question is, how did you vote?
How did I vote?
Yes.
I vote yes.
That settles the argument. I said I would vote no.
But it would still be intact.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on from the charter. Thank you both for your platforms, spaces in that. I'm going to go back to the community. We're running good on time, so I'm going to go back to the community again. Okay, here we go. Now, someone cheated. They wrote 4 questions on here, Dr. Mason, so I'm only going to pick one out of the 4. I want to make sure you have 4 questions written on here. Okay. All right, let's go here. This is a great space. I think everyone can agree that, you know, our city depends also on what we're doing for our youth. A question here, we'll start with the mayor. What are your plans to get Garden City's youth involved or more involved in the community?
Well, back to the recreation. You know, get them involved in recreation and different aspects of it. So we have a good recreation team with Cliff there. With we have baseball, we have football, we have different things in the community for kids. At once, when I was the president of the Progressive Club, which is now the Homestead Association, we used to have a scholarship thing that we used to give money every year to kids who was planning on going to college. We did this for about 10 or 12 years and involving the kids, trying to get them to do the same thing and to follow suit. So, like I said, with recreation and everything, that's a lot of things that we can do with those kids over there.
Okay, Dr. Monroe, same question to you. What will be your plan to involve the youth in the Garden City?
Well, that's getting physically and personally involved. And that's we being in the community, we engaging our young people in the community, being part of the recreation department. As a mayor and council, going to recreational games and starting mentor programs. The city helping facilitate, helping community organizations in the city facilitating mentor programs that starts in the city after school, that starts in the school system. That's what I've been doing for over 30 years. As I alluded, I have a school for boys. And so I'm that individual that has my sleeves rolled up and I'm at ground zero with the kids. And so this is how we get, I was on a Zoom prior to here with a group of kids from Savannah State. They facilitate a program for young people. And I'm bringing them out Friday, and they're going to help assist in the campaign. These kids don't even live in Garden City, but they want to be involved. And that's what I do. I get people
Thank you,
involved.
Dr. Monroe. I'll allow you, if you want to have one comment. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Like I say, Mr. Monroe said he had a school, but that's nobody's mouth. But because nobody don't know about that school in Bermuda. But he was the president for 12 years in the community of Rosenau Hill. What have he done with these kids? He talk about what he did with kids outside of Rosenau Hill, but he's the president of the community. Why could you do so much overseas in other areas, but not in your own community? I don't understand it.
Okay,
Well,
you have, okay, just for point of order, because we've had a clean conversation.
Yeah.
I want to keep it
Yeah.
very clean. You did mention his name and you did reference something,
Yeah.
so I will allow for him to respond to that. Go ahead.
if you understand, it is written, a man is not without a prophet except in his own city. And so I had the government of Bermuda supporting me. All I have from Garden City is this mayor, the former mayor, and all of council fighting against me, doing things in the community. So they don't work with me. They don't try to help the community organization engage, embark, and do things. They don't collaborate with the Garden City Homestead Association. So we suspended a lot of things until we are in a better
is
position
time.
to do greater things.
Thank you so much, Dr. Monroe. I want to move us to our last segment. Let's give a round of applause for our economic development segment. We're going to move to our last segment of the evening, which is public safety. Say public safety. So public safety. In this section, we will start with you, Dr. Monroe. What will you do as mayor to ensure, with the expansion of the community, we've talked a lot about growth this evening, that there is still a vested interest in public safety for our citizens?
Absolutely. Um, Public safety, what we have, how we address that is we have to bring back it is it may seem outdated, but community cops. We are still small enough for Garden City to be a community city, but yet we are metropolitan enough to be able to be that city where you can, grow and have opportunities on a larger scale. However, how we address that is we have to be able to let the people know the police officers know the community. We engage in community activity. We bring back a community cop, which we don't have anymore. So we bring whether that person back or bring a person back of sort to help mend the distance between community and the police force and creating a safer community. And then put things in place, whereas it's all about Garden City. It's all about Garden City being a fun, family, friend city, but hard on crime.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Monroe. We will pose the same question to you, Mayor Campbell. Again, the question is, as mayor, and we can interpret this, what have you done or what will you do to ensure with the expansion of the community that public safety has a vested interest in the community?
Well, what we'll do is keep giving our first responders the best equipment and everything that they need to do their job, and try to hire more police, on the force as these new places and as we expand it out, because we was talking about it trying to expand out Highway 17, and if we annex out that side, we're going to need more police officers than at one time. But I remember a certain person sitting on the stage said that we had too many police officers in the city for the size of a city like Garden City, and I don't think we have too many police. I just don't think so. And but they made that statement at one time. So I think we're doing pretty good as a police force. We just received $1,100,000 for a grant for more officers to come on force. So I think we're doing pretty good. And the police is up very friendly. Crime has been down in the last 5 years. So I think Garden City is doing real great in our safety.
Okay, Dr. Monroe, I'll allow you to respond.
So understanding the national figure for calculating police officers, I believe it's 2 police officers per 1,000 citizens. At the time, we were experiencing, and that was over 10 years ago, we were experiencing essentially a $500 million shortfall, like 4 years in a row because of what everybody says, the Taj Mahal. We didn't have it in our budget to have not only the number of officers that was required, but we had at the time, I don't know, I think it was like 60, 70 officers that we had, and all that was required at the time, I think was about 38 to 40, according to national standards and configuration. So I was saying we could mitigate our budget by reducing that because essentially crime wasn't a major factor in that respect in the city of Garden City. People come to Garden City and people get in alignment. People don't come to Garden City and act up. Things happen, crime happen. So to what he's referencing, that was, again, that's because I know not how to, I don't run my city as my home. You have to make budget cuts here and there to be able to sustain other aspects of the city. So that was what that argument was about, sir.
Okay, that is time. We're going to go back. Mr. Mayor, I did allow for a little bit to go over. Do you want anything to add to that? You okay? Okay, all right. I'm going to go back to our bucket here. Okay, so as mayor, and we've talked about this segment a little bit in our housing, but as mayor, what are your plans to enhance affordable home ownership? And we'll start with Mr. Mayor on this. What are your plans to enhance affordable home ownership?
Well, like I said, what we'll do is offer concessions to developers to come through that would build affordable homes. And then affordable homes, is what's affordable to me or what affordable to you might not be affordable to the next person. So that can go a long ways. But we are all trying to bring in, like I say, we got consultants out looking, for land and things like this for affordable houses and for people to come in, developers. We offering them incentives such as permit, discounts on permit, and different fees in order to attract them to come into the city and build some affordable homes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dr. Monroe, your plan for affordable home ownership.
Yes, that's consistent in the sense whereas we're talking about on a large scale development and developing a community of sort. But as alluded, a lot of property that is available for development is owned by a single family. So it may be a lot, it may be an acre here or there. While we have a significant enough properties for larger developments. So yes, we give those landowners incentives with regard to building a home on that property to try to, I remember one of the larger ministries, Catholic churches in Savannah, they had a program where it was called Come Home. And we could initiate a program of sort like that in Garden City to people who grew up here, have moved away north or what have you, like to come back south and say, hey, come home, come back home to the city of Garden City. And there are incentives put in place to develop your individual property as well as working with developers and giving them incentives to help build out community and developments of sort. So that's what we have to do. We have to make it a community where people want to come. But we got to also build out a city that is pleasing to the eyes, that it just doesn't look like an industrial steel curtain. And we have other options and opportunities in and around the city that say, okay, it looks like they're going in the right direction. And also work with Representative Gilliard in his program here in Garden City. I think it's the Dream Makers program. So there are a lot of resources available that we can use. We have a representative that's fighting for housing, single dwelling development. We have to be able to connect the dots. I'm the person that will connect those dots.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're going to stick in our community hat just for a moment here. We're running good on time. I'm just checking our time. This question actually is for you, Mr. Campbell. Was there any, and it says for Mr. Campbell, so that's why I'm addressing you like that, sir, Mr. Mayor. It says, was there any type of study done prior to setting up speed bumps throughout the city?
No, it wasn't. But my study was. I'm a guy that I walk and I runs the neighborhood. I'm in my neighborhood at all times. We have a neighborhood where we had kids, and the kids didn't have a play park. They play in the street. They ride their bicycles, and we have cars that speed up and down the road. And I've seen so many near misses in my community. I mean, of people getting run over or car accidents happening, and they put stop signs out, and they didn't do it. Now, I'm not speaking for my community, so I request that something had to happen for these kids before someone get mashed up. And I made a statement that if they didn't do something about it, they wouldn't have liked me in the news if anything happened to one of those kids. So they put a few speed bumps down in my community, and other people start asking for them. When you got probably about 7 or 8 people didn't want them, but the majority of the people wanted them. Sure, they could have been designed better because they are inconsistent. Some is higher than the other. But anybody who wouldn't want safety in their community, then I don't know what to say about that.
Dr. Monroe, do you have any thoughts on that? I'll allow you a chance to respond.
Absolutely. Well, that's the difference between running a city like your home and running a city based on analysis and study and information. And so the first thing, yes, you have to do is take an analysis. I'm the mayor of the entire city. So while it is commendable that I care and I'm concerned about the children in my community, on my street, that's an isolated community. So an analysis of sort and a study of sort would have been beneficial if we were going to do this citywide. Then it should have been a study to see how safe all of our communities are. Look at each street because that's costly. To run a city like a home is costly. So I don't know what the budget is. Maybe the city manager that's sitting back there now, he can tell us how much it costs the city to put all of those speed bumps down. There were some put down initially and they were removed. That cost the city, even if the Public Works
That
Department
is time,
removed
Dr.
them.
Monroe.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Campbell, before I move on, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Well, it costs $100,000 a year for police with payroll and everything else. And for all those speed bumps, I guess it cost us maybe about $90,000 for all of them. But if you had one police that had to man them places, because people say, well, you ought to get a police, you ought to put the police on their job and make them out there. But speed humps can do the job that much cheaper than it is to put a police on their job. And I think the speed hump's been working pretty good.
Okay. All right. I would
Well-
like to move on, if you don't mind, sir. Let's move on so we don't spend too many times on that. I want to get to as many questions from the citizens as possible. All right, but I will start with you, though, Dr. Monroe, on this question. What is your opinion of the housing team of Garden City and its efforts?
Well, I don't like to bring my opinion when I'm governing as a mayor. I like to use study, analysis, and documentation. The Garden City housing team was established through and by the city of Garden City to address housing in Garden City. That entity, that is the only GET certified entity in the city of Garden City to address housing in Garden City. I'm very pleased with what they have done in the city of Garden City. Now, we did a house and a home for a lady. My wife is the president. I think the grant for her home was 58 or 68,000. My wife got an additional 25,000 from Home Depot, put all appliances in the house, HVAC, everything, and the homeowner was just displeased. We can't help ungratefulness, okay? So I think the Garden City housing team is on the right track, doing the right thing for what that agency was created for. And if the city will work with it, as I would, then we could get done in the city for the people. Now that program is being held up because of an ungrateful resident, and I'm not afraid to say that they were whatever displeased for putting $70,000, $68,000 into their home. And now the program is held up, and 4 other residents are waiting to have their homes rehabbed. So it's a tremendous program, and I think that if we were to, as a city, utilize it for what it was created for, we could get more done.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn the same question over to, okay. All right, sir. So let's move on here to another question. A few more questions I will take before we get ready to wrap up. All right, with our creative handwriting skills again. All right, we'll start with Mayor Campbell on this. Okay, can you tell us? Okay, well, I've already asked that. What community means to you? That's what that says. So I have that. We've already answered that for all the candidates. Somebody was in my mind. Okay. All right, Mayor Campbell, we'll start with you. What are your plans to tackle our current gun and gang violence occurring among our youth?
Well, for our gun violence, that's a tough question.
Right.
Because there ain't too much that we can do about those, but education, but educating our kids. That's about the best thing we can do, because the kids gonna get the guns regardless of how much you fight or how much you go against it. There's always someone on the street selling them, and I don't care who say what they can do about gun violence. It's all over the world, and that's going to be a hard task. All I can say is to education. That's it.
All right. We'll pose the same question to you, Dr. Monroe.
Well, gun violence, like the poor, will always be amongst us. But one thing I like about Councilman Lassiter, Councilman Morris, they are in the communities. But unfortunately, they don't have the mayor and the rest of the council in the communities with them, because that's where a lot of the gun violence perhaps transpires. So we have to have a better presence, not only just with the police force, but with our council, doing things in the community. Community engagement changes things. Community engagement affects things. I said to my wife the other day, people get involved when they are involved. And so that's what we would do, working along with Councilman Lassiter, working along with Councilwoman Marsh. We would be in the community, getting our community involved, promoting safer communities, promoting and talking to our young people. I have a relationship with our young people. Councilman Lassiter, has a relationship with the young people, the young men, and that's how we address it. I have no problem. I have the capacity to walk up to these young men and they respond and listen. So that's what we have to do.
Thank you so much. Mayor
Thank
Campbell,
you.
I'll allow you to respond.
Yes, I sure do. See, the doctor keeps saying about him and the kids. He was the president for 12 years in this community where gun violence are pretty rapid. But if he's so good with the kids, if he's in the community where he's at doing these times, in that same community now, I don't understand that.
Okay.
Well, sir, we are a small organization. We have a number of residents here that we do things in the community. Resources are limited with our organization. The city has resources. That is the question. As an elected official with resources, what would you do? And with greater resources, that's one thing I would do. Unlike you as a mayor, as you stated, you was once a president of the organization. You stopped coming to the meetings. So one thing I would do is whatever community organization exists in Garden City, I as a mayor will be with that organization, a part of that organization, in tune with that organization, and in the community
That is time,
activities
Dr. Monroe.
that they are doing.
Okay, you did call out specifically the mayor, so I will allow you 30 seconds is on the clock starting now.
When the meeting, when the organization became a dictatorship, then no, I didn't see no other use of coming around there. You hadn't had a meeting in over 1 year. We came in to change officers. You told me, see, if you hadn't been to a meeting in 4 months, you was not in compliance. But they hadn't had a meeting in a year, so the whole organization was not in compliance. So it became dictatorship. So I didn't have anything else to do with it.
Okay, that is time. All right. I want to keep moving on again. Some of these questions have already been answered, so everyone knows. A lot of questions, though, I want to be transparent, have been about the youth. We've spent a lot of time speaking about the youth. Again, another question about what programs would you implement for the youth? We've spent an exhaustive amount of time on that, so I'm not going to ask this question of our candidates, but I think that is fair to say to both of you gentlemen, whoever is elected, that is an important issue that this community cares about and is focused on. All right, moving forward. Okay, here we go. We'll start with Dr. Monroe on this question. Simply put, there's a rift in council. How do you plan on handling that?
Well, I'm not certain. I'm not on council.
Well, let's pose it like this. If there is a current rift in council, however the makeup looks on council, if you were selected mayor, how would you handle that?
Well, again, it's a matter of giving mayor or giving the entire council a vision, giving something that we can work toward, opposed to everyone just coming to the table and saying, hey, I want to do this. I think it should be this way. It's bringing us together to a common cause, a common goal, and utilizing the city's comp plan to do that, putting plans in place to say, hey, listen, these are our options. These are our opportunities in Garden City. What do you feel about this? What do you feel about that? Bringing everybody to a common goal of where we want to go. And that's what's lacking. That's where the frustration is with the council. That's where the frustration is with staff. That whatever is transpiring on council, the energy there resonates within staff. Staff is in the most miserable place that it has ever been in. The people of Garden City are hating to come to work for the city of Garden City because of the culture that has been created over there. Now, they're not going to say that because they have to protect their jobs. But this is the communication among staffers at the city of Garden City. And it filters from mayor and council. You stated it. That's a question. And because there is a lot of whatever's going on council, I'm not there, I don't know. But it filters its way down to staff. It tried to filter its way into zoning and planning, but because we are a group of professionals, we were able to maintain ourselves pretty good.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I will allow for you to respond to that.
Well,
If there's a rift, again, I want to state the question because I want to keep us on target. The question is, if there's a rift on council, how do you plan on handling that?
well, we don't necessarily have a riff on council. You know, we just agree to disagree. We don't all agree on the same thing, but the majority of the time, we all vote together. You know, and so we don't have a riff. But if we did have a riff, and I think we can settle it out as being grown folks, but there are big riffs over there on planning and zoning, and mainly because the person up here on the stage with me. So we don't have no riffs.
Okay. In fairness, you did
Yeah.
address, so I will allow 30 seconds. Please put 30 seconds on the clock.
So it is written, how can two get along except they agree? Okay? So first of all, I don't believe in agree to quote unquote disagree. Let's work on an heuristic solution. The solution is within us. And so what they call chaos amongst the zoning and planning is we are working on a solution. We talk, we vet until we have a solution. A man who believes that to agree to disagree lacks intelligence because it takes intelligence to find a solution. And that's what we do on
That is
the
time, Dr. Monroe.
commission is find solutions.
Okay. All right, Mr. One time, but if you target, I do have to allow the opponent the opportunity to come back. So I will let you make a comment, but if you target, we will stay here. So it's on you. If you would like to, go ahead.
Right. But I mean, what I mean when I said agree to disagree, that means don't you get mad with me because I don't agree with you, and I'm going to treat you the same way. You know, but the most of the time, I'm going to target. The most of the time, they had that riff over there on that other thing. It was because the doctor didn't respect the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. They couldn't shut him up.
Okay. All right. Dr. Monroe, again, I
Yes.
said in fairness, 30 seconds if you would like to
And
respond.
I'm not going to limit myself to that ignorance because we have two commissioners here that will attest to the fact that one thing we do is we find solutions and we talk to one another with respect. We talk to one another professionally. There's no one that comes at anyone in that respect or regard. And so anyone can tell you, I've chaired the zoning and planning. I know how to respect a chair and give the chair the respect. But when you're making arguments to the betterment of the city of Garden City, you're going to have differing opinions, but we can come together to agree for a common solution.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And that is time. So this is our very last question of the evening. Our very last question of the evening, and I'm going to put it back in the hands of the citizens who will be going to the poll in a few days. Okay. This question is, when is the community center project going to start? And I will take a point of privilege here. I don't want to end just on that because that is a question that I think is kind of short-ended, but I will allow the mayor, who's currently in the position, to answer the question.
Senator, what, they're talking about the gymnasium?
They must be the community center project going to start.
It should start. All the funds are in place. So anyway, from next month to the first of the year, it should start.
Okay. I want to be very just black and white to the point of what the question is. That was the question. Dr. Monroe, I'm not going to ask that of you because you're not currently in the seat, so you wouldn't know when that
Well, I
gonna
would
start.
say to that,
Okay.
I mean, can we trust that it can start in the next month of next year? Because we've been promised a lot of things are going to will start.
Okay.
We were promised that be a direct swap with the city and the school board, and we would retain Mercer, and that Mercer would be part of our recreation department. We don't even have a recreation department now. We are operating out of Scott. So to the promise of it can start and will start from now until the first of the year, you know,
Okay.
we're waiting
Okay.
in bated
I
breath.
don't want to do a rally back and forth on this because we've had a lot of time on this. This next question, I want to get as many done as possible, is about housing that I pulled. We've spent an exhaustive time on housing. I'm trying to get a last question that we have not asked. That will be the last question. Okay. This question pulled is for Mr. Monroe. It says, for Mr. Monroe, you have been president of the Homestead Association for approximately 12 years. Name 3 things that you have accomplished in the community within that time frame.
Well, first of all, as I alluded to, I'm a man of policy. When I received the Garden City Homestead Association from Mr. Campbell, it was in administrative dissolution, meaning that it had lost its right to operate with the state of Georgia. So for the first 3 years, I had to personally rewrite all of the bylaws of the Garden City Homestead Association. So it's about policy. I had to do that first. I understand the importance of having everything in place. So I had to beg the state of Georgia to allow us to maintain, I think at the time, our 49 years of history, because they were saying you can start over again, but you're going to lose that 49 years of history. That organization was created consequently of a time when Garden City was segregated. That organization was established and started and established to address those issues to allow the communities of the 3rd and 4th districts to have recreational activities. So I had to fight just to keep and get the organization back on track. See, that's what I bring to the table. I bring knowledge, I bring skill, I bring information, I bring the ability to write policy, interpret policy. I bring to the table the ability to enforce policy. So of all those things, that's what I was able to do. I had to correct their mess because they had allowed the organization to go into administrative dissolution. And even when we were having a parade, we would try to have a community parade every year. It came to me that the people who were fighting against that parade was Mr. Campbell himself. He was fighting against us having the parade for the citizen. I had to tell the city manager at the time, who said to me, "You're not going to have the parade." I said, "Well, I can't help what happens with the people. I'm going to show up. I'm going to walk the parade route. That's going to be your problem
That
with
is
the
time,
people."
Dr. Monroe. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so much. You did address the opposing candidate, so I will allow you your minute response and grant you 30 seconds as well.
I asked the doctor, I said, hey, I said, you're going to have a parade. Why don't you let's get the group together and get in the Martin Luther King parade, because that was the rate for the Martin Luther King thing. Let us put the whole group in there. But he said it took him 3 years to get the stuff together. But what happened to the other 9 years? What you did the other 9 years?
And
Oh, okay. This is the last question, so go ahead. Yes, sir.
again,
Yeah.
we have a number of members here in the community. We've done a number of things in the city of Garden City. One, the reason why you all are having this campaign debate, you want to know who facilitated the first campaign debate in Garden City? Garden City Homestead Association. It was one of the best. It was well coordinated, well organized. We had everything set up in the Garden City gym. So we were engaging in civic things. There are 5 aspects of that organization: civic, recreation, and a number of other things. So that was what we were engaged in civically, social issues. And one was, again, trying to formalize a relationship with the city that seemingly did not want to transpire. So as far as with the kids, a parade in the community and doing a number of things in the community
Yes.
is what we're about.
All right, that is time. If you have one last remark, and we're going to move to closing statements. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to move to our closing statements. We did flip a coin at the coin toss. Mr. Monroe elected to have the mayor go first. So now Mr. Monroe will close us first, followed by the last closing by Mayor Campbell.
So we began with a prayer, and that was Micah 6:8. And the question or the affirmation was made, what does the Lord require? What does the Lord require? The Lord requires me as I came back to the city of Garden City to come back and rebuild, revitalize, restore a city to live in and dwell in. That's what the Lord requires. The Lord requires, as it is in Nehemiah, for you, the citizens, to have a mind to build, a mind to restore our city, a mind for a better city, a mind for a better quality of life, a mind to say, let's move this city forward. That's what the Lord requires. I'm asking each one of you to go home tonight and not just say, take in what you've heard per se here at this debate with regard to myself or Mr. Campbell. Go home tonight and ask yourselves, what does the Lord require? Who would the Lord have to lead this blessed, beautiful, beloved city? Who would be the better person to bring glory and goodness and peace and prosperity to this city? I would tell you, it would be someone who has a heart for the city. It would tell you someone who has a head to lead the city. It would tell you someone who could implement smart goals, safe development, and sound leadership for every citizen, each community, and the entire city here in the city of Garden City. It is someone who has a passion, an undying passion for the city of Garden City. It is someone who's not running a fourth time, but someone who's trying to finish his course. I'm trying to finish my course. And with your vote, I can not only finish my course, but we could make our city a better city.
That is time, Dr.
What
Monroe.
will the Lord require of us?
Thank you so much. Yes, and this is closing. I did, because some folks I see watching, I did allow a few extra moments there. I will give you the same privilege, Mr. Mayor, as well.
I don't come to make you no promises. The only promise I can make you is I'll work hard for you each and every day with counsel. I can't do nothing on my own. But like he said, what would God have you to do? One thing about it, God don't put his foot in a mess. And so much untrue things were said up here to sit in the house of the Lord. Y'all go home and make a conscious vote on who you're going to vote for. Only thing I tell you, I won't make you no promise. The only promise I'll make you is I'll work hard for you, but I'll never lie to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we give a round of applause to both candidates tonight? Mayor Bruce Campbell and Dr. Gary Monroe. Since we are in an incredible house of worship, do you feel like you've gotten some great information tonight? Okay, and that's what it's all about. We want to thank again our Garden City faith leaders. We want to thank again Dr. Mason. And because we started in prayer, we also are going to end in prayer for these candidates. Dr. Mason, would you like to close us in prayer?
Pray. Lord, we thank you for this space and time that you've afforded us to gather here in this your holy place tonight. We thank you for the ears and the voices that have spoken. Now, God, we trust you because you told us to trust you in everything that we do. And God, we've been God instructed from the book of Micah, God, to consult you as to how you would have us to vote in this next election. Lead us, guide us, and show us what you would have us to do. We pray for the both of these men who have shared their hearts and shared that they plan to do if they are elected in office as the mayor of Garden City. We ask your blessings upon each and every one of them. It is in the name of Jesus that we pray. Every heart that love him say amen. Much prayer, much power. Little prayer, little power. No prayer, no power.